Hi everyone, this is Natasha, and I'm going to take about a half hour, 40 minutes or so to work on the tags for the inside of the toilet paper mini. And the reason it's going to be brief is because I have a meeting and I'm just taking a lunch break. So, um, if you've seen the previous videos, and if you haven't, I'll include links. I created these shadow box tags by cutting the top layer tag with the movers and shapers and then backing it with another white tag. That was a little backwards because the white is way too stark for the coloring of the mini, which is the paper, the Glitz Printing Pink paper. The white is way too stark, so I decided that I would use Lindy Stamp Gang Hottie Patati Hot Pink to color it up, but to preserve the image of the cutout, the center image. Hi Sherry. What I did is I saved the little movers and shapers cutouts, all except one. So what I did is I went back and then placed the mover and shaper, and this is just to save time because I don't want to drag this out way too long. I placed the cutout part back in and then rubbed the Lindy Stamp Gang Starburst stain, which is the Dower top, over the entire thing, front and back. But I didn't want to color up the interior image because I used different pattern paper on the inside. So I did that for each one of these. So I already prepped these, and this one was done with the Tonic Flutter Punch. But this is the one that I've done everything to. So I've colored it up with Hottie Patati Hot Pink, and then I've edged it with Gathered Twigs Distress Ink. So that's what we're going to do to this one. But in order to do this one, I still need to cut out. That's the only one that I didn't retain is the dress form, the mini dress form. So I'm just going to recut this out so I can place it over it and then rub the Lindy Stamp Gang Starburst stain over it. So let me just grab my Cuttlebug, and I have an extra tag hanging out in white. I'm just going to use that to cut it. Just checking to make sure there was no dog behind me. And for those of you who are following along, although there are a lot of videos, it really doesn't take that much time to put it all together. It's just because I'm also gabbing in between, and it's been more of a social kind of thing. So I have my mover and shaper mini dress form die in there. I'm gonna place the white tag, and I'm sorry you're not seeing this. Let me see if I can move it with minimal disturbance. I'm gonna place the tag that's already cut out right into the little groove, and it's really just because I want to have the white piece to place over, and I'll still use that tag for something else, so it won't go to waste. Watch out for the kickback. That's all we needed that Cuttlebug for. So you see, that's what I was after. But now I have another tag that I could use on something else. So, and this step is really only necessary because of my own out of order mistake. If you did this properly, you would take and color up this tag before placing the pattern paper and gluing the two tags together. But because I did it after the fact, I want to make sure that I don't discolor too much. There'll be a little bit of bleeding through of the distress stain. I just want to shake it up to make sure that all the glimmer is distributed. And then I'm going to place it inside the cut and then just dauber it. And my initial push down to release the liquid is going to be off the cutout because I don't want it to seep in. I'm just going to color it up. I'm going to try to go in one direction because I really don't want that to bleed through, or I want to minimize the amount of bleeding through that happens from this image. And again, because I went out of order, I should have colored these up before gluing everything. Anywhere where there's any even little residuals of the glue, it won't take on the color. You see, I've masked that back, and now if I remove it, the paint hasn't really bled through, which is good. Now I even have this little cutout to use, so win-win here. And this is pretty clean. Just rub my finger in it and do the back as well. And then once I'm going to put this one aside to dry, I'm going to let them air dry. I don't want to warp them, and I let the others all air dry, and there was really no warping. I didn't have to run them through to straighten them out or anything, which was a very pleasant surprise, I have to admit. I was anticipating at least a little bit of warping, but there wasn't. So let me just wipe off my surface, and not that much. And if you don't have a desk like this one, because it's a metal, like you could beat this up, you can color paint on it, everything just rubs off. Definitely use your protected, your one of those mats. I have an oven liner, so this is what the tags ultimately look like. There's a little bit of shimmer, there's that peek out image, and the back and the front is colored up with the Hati Patati glimmer stain, or Hati Patati starburst stain with the dauber top, and then edged in the gathered twig ink distress ink. So that's what I'm going to do to the rest of these. And again, I'm using my work surface because it's very, very forgiving, and I'll go through and clean it up and wipe it afterwards. And I'm not worried that there's going to be a little bit of a transfer if I rub it this way on the back, because I want this to be kind of grungy and distressed looking. So it's like doing half the work for me. And again, the corners would be apt to be more distressed, so I go a little heavier on the corners. I'm even re-picking up some of the ink off of my desktop, so you can see there's a little bit right here. This is definitely a little more better match than the stark white ones. I just wasn't happy with the way the white ones looked. I'm going to do a little around the hole. I haven't decided whether I'm going to put eyelets in these, because these are a little larger, so I think I might need to use my larger brown one. See, there's just a little bit of a distress that gets picked up from this, but I don't mind. So that's much better than just the stark white or just the pink. And you see this one's a little blotchy, and I like that. As a matter of fact, the next time, let me do the back. And then when my sponge applicator is almost out of ink, I'm going to do a quick dry pass over the entire tag to tone down just a little bit of the Hati Patati, because it is very bright, although it matches very nicely to the rest of the collection, surprisingly. Okay, so since this is almost out of ink, I'm just going to ever so gently, in the circular light motion, applying very little pressure. It just looks like it's been worn one down. I'll do the same thing to this one since I already have the dauber top at just at that right saturation level. Same thing on the back. Not applying a lot of pressure because as soon as you apply pressure you'll get the squishy sponge indentation. Oh, my hair. I think in person it's a lot brighter than actually even on camera because I'm looking at it in the, you know, comparing it between the live and the video. So, and this, I have to say, matches very nicely to the overall look. So now it doesn't look like that stark white. And it matches all the colors. So I'm just going to go through and do that to the remaining 3 tags. And then maybe I'll decide whether I want to put an eyelet through the hole or not. Because I also have an option to use some seam binding. But I think it would finish it off nicely. If I have a large brown eyelet, I might do that. Because then I'll just finish everything off nicely. Because if I'm adding eyelets to the tiny little interior tags, you just feel like it's not completed if the external ones don't have it. You know, the larger ones don't have it. Again, do the same thing on the back. And this goes really quickly, and because these are larger, you could certainly use the larger sponge applicator, but because I already have this one out, I just decided not to switch over. Plus I don't think I have I don't have a gathered twig. I ordinarily Velcro them onto the back of the actual Distress ink so I don't misplace them or use the wrong one on the wrong color. Cross-contaminate them. And some of these will be a little darker than others, and that's okay. And again, I'm going over the whole thing. See, if you press down, you get a greater application. And again, I'm going to go over the whole thing just ever so slightly, and then do that. Okay, I think I'm going to leave that one for last because I want to do something slightly different to that one because of the flutter part of the butterfly. So it seems like summer has joined us, or has come to our neck of the woods. Yesterday was one of the days over the weekend. It was really hot and humid, I think 90. But then following day was a little cooler and not as humid. I don't do well with humidity. First of all, my hair turns into an afro, a white afro, well, whatever, my red hair afro, which is hysterical. And I just don't like the hot I can handle. It's the humidity that just feels yucky to me. I don't understand how people can live in Florida during the summer. My chicks are doing fine. They're growing so big. Their feathers are coming in, and someone commented that one of our chicks, I think Nugget, could be a show chicken. She's very pretty. And my husband met with one of our local chicken farmers. We live in suburbia, but we live in kind of suburbia where we have a lot of farms. If anyone's familiar with Stu Leonard's grocery stores, in Connecticut, a lot of their milk comes from our town. Yes, my cat is a little, it's a little disturbing, and I haven't quite figured out what the purpose or like what her motivation is, but my cat sleeps next to the chicken, next to the chicks, and I think she's concerned about them because whenever they start to chirp, she runs right over and watches them, but she sleeps all night long next to the chicks, and they're not disturbed by her at all. They go about their business doing whatever it is that they do. I don't trust her without the protective grate we have on it, though, because Mother Nature wins out every single time. I watched Jurassic Park, I remember. Where there's a will, there's a way. So I certainly don't want to give her carte blanche to snack on them. So we had them for a week on Sunday. Okay, so this flutter butterfly pops up. So what I'm going to do is ever so gently go around the edges, because it is just cardstock and this one's just a little moist. I think it's okay. And nature finds a way. But I think they're doing pretty well. They seem to be happy. They're eating and growing. And I opted not to give them any hormones, so they're organic chickens so far. And we decided that unless we see any issues from them, like they're not growing, or if there's like a runt that needs to be taken to the vet or checked out, we're just going to give them the organic feed and not give them any vitamins or shots or any of the supplements, or even supplemented water. I've been giving them regular, well, actually not regular water. They're a little spoiled. They're drinking Poland Springs. I'm a nut. But alright, so I think that's enough distressing before I go overboard. And I think I have one more, but that's drying. So for now, that's enough for those. Let me just wipe down my work surface and take a sip of my iced coffee. And you can see where the ink is. It's all this darker area, but watch what happens. My desk, this desk is fabulous. It's from the, I think from the 60s. It's all metal, and it's a faux veneer wood top. You could ink on it, you could spray on it, and everything comes up. Love that. So if I'm doing like quick small projects like this, I don't have to pull out all of my my oven mat, even though I do have it nearby. Alright, so let me just make sure everything is dry before I pull out the rest of the... My work area is very, very small. This is... Yeah, it's very small. But I work right here, so here's my work computer, and I figure it's kind of an optimum place. I don't do a lot of really big projects, and if I do, I kind of clear a little more space, but I can always move a little bit. So let me just move you out just a tiny bit. And we can take a look. So we have so far the cover done, the tags, just kind of check in where we are. Some of the embellishments, which I made the other day, and I stamped out a couple more stamps. So those are for the inside. Here's the rest of the pages. Which go like this. And then the back matches the front cover. So it's going to be aligned like this. Let's dry fit it and I'll show you. So the tags slide in to each of the toilet paper tubes, which have been flattened, which have first been disinfected, just so everybody is aware. They've been first disinfected and covered. So what remains is to bind it and then start putting in the embellishments, which I think the process that I'm going to follow is I'm going to bind it first and then work on the embellishments, because once they're bound, I'll know how much wiggle room I have on each page and just how much dimension I can add. I already knew that the most dimensional would be the cover, because look at the roses. But I have more of these smaller roses that I could use at various places, and I also have some of this wood embellishment which matches. I just might have to distress it just a tiny little bit because it's a fabric. It's a fabric covered dove. And then I have some of these brown bows which are very cute. And I did pull this out, but I don't think it goes well with this yet because it's so bright, so I might have to use some alcohol inks on this. I also have some brads and little brown eyelets, and then these small fuchsia roses, which will be great to use as a little accent on, let's say, one of these tiny little pockets, because that's not adding a lot of dimension, but it does add. See, I don't even have to cut it off really. Just tuck it underneath the little postage stamp. So those are the kind of things that I'm going to use for the interior embellishments. I know that I'm at least a couple. I'd like to add a strip of maybe one of the coordinating papers punched out with a border punch to make a little pocket, so they would only be adhered on 2 sides or on 3 sides, so it'll be a pocket so you could slip something in. And I had been debating about how to bind this because there's a couple of options, or there's quite a few options, but the options that I was debating are my bind it all, which I could increase the length just a little by creating tabs out of this brown paper, brown cardstock, and then punching the holes in those tabs and then gluing them into each one of the toilet paper rolls. I could also do the I guess Laura Dennison's stack the deck technique, which she named it, she coined it, but you know, the paper folding has existed for thousands of years, so it's just a matter of taking one piece of paper and then folding it to tuck a piece in, fold, tuck another piece in, and then just glue those tucked in pieces, creating an outside edge, tucked in pieces, and a back edge. And then I can adjust maybe even a 1/4 inch in between each one to account for some of the dimension from embellishments. So it would make the mini just a little fuller, but it'll make them sit nicer versus binding everything on rings. Or another option is, you know, punching through 2 rings. Although that would mean that these tags will be out a little further because you need to have a bit of about a 1/4 inch, and I think that might be a little too far out. I like the way that they are peeking out like this with just their little eyes. So those are the couple of options for binding. I'm definitely leaning towards the stack the deck paper folding process because it will give you the nicest finished edge. So I think I'm going to try and do that after work today. Let me just do a quick time check. If anyone has any questions, I think I have a few minutes to answer some of them. for those of you who are on live on Ustream. If you're watching the recording, I'll read the question and answer it. Does anyone have any questions about any of these steps, any of the process so far? Yes, all of these flowers are Wild Orchid Crafts. All of the embellishments are Wild Orchid Crafts as well. The little wooden bird, fabric covered wooden bird, the only thing that's not Wild Orchid Crafts is this, and this is part of the Glitz paper design. It's the sticker pack. Let me see if I have that nearby. And I am going to use a couple more of those. I used that one on the cover because I thought it coordinated nicely because it had all of the colors that I was using. But there's also this rose one, which I might use on an interior pocket. Yeah, the fuchsias, pinks, and browns go really nicely together. And see, this rose is almost drawn from that one. So that's why I pulled out those colors to use. And then I have all of these little stickers that I could use all throughout the book, like love, shine, smile, aspire, and laugh. So I'm going to definitely use these because these were part of the pack that I got with the paper. And the paper is the Pretty Pink Glitz. And I've used most of the ones that have the pink tone. I did make a few pockets out of this brown one that looks like glassine envelope, which I think is pretty cool. I left some of these still in because I think for the purpose of this very small mini, the scale just wasn't quite right, and these are really, really light. I did use one of the toiles, a stripe one, which is lovely, the kind of ticking. And I think this is one of my favorites. Because see how the distressing is just everywhere. So I use this for the front and the back. And have you noticed that even in this humidity, just for a couple of days, the paper is starting to curl. So I have to put it in a control environment. So I have a couple of other items that I could use as embellishments. I pulled out some of these skeleton leaves. These fuchsia ones are just the right colors. There's also brown ones. I might use a fuchsia and a brown one. And then all these various rhinestones and pearls. So I have those also on the standby. So if there's does anyone else have any other questions? Because if there are no other questions, I'll wait a couple of minutes and then I'll end this stream and this recording and put it up on YouTube as TP Toilet Paper Mini number 5. And it's all part of a playlist for those of you who have might have missed any of the other recordings. They're on YouTube under a playlist called Ustream TP Mini. I figure that's the easiest way to kind of keep everything together. That way you can catch up if you're not able to attend a live Ustream. And I will try to stream after work, maybe working on the binding, since we have the tags all done. So the last tag is just drying, the one we just did. It's just still ever so slightly moist, and I don't want to try to disturb the paper now. Well, if there are no other questions, thank you so much for stopping by. I know this was brief, but at least we got some things accomplished, and I have a game plan for this afternoon stream if I can log off at a reasonable time from work. And again, as always, I will tweet and Facebook, put a message on Facebook when I am streaming if you want to join me live. Thank you everyone who joined me live today and for all the questions. And for those of you who are watching the recording, you are welcome to ask any question you might have. I will try to answer them. And again, the playlist is the easiest way to find all the videos. So since this is video number 5, there'll be a 6 for the binding, possibly more to finish off all the embellishments on the inside. So thank you so much for watching.